meeting will come to order. The first item of consideration this morning is the common carrier docket number 78-374, the regulation of domestic receive-only earth stations. Bill?
Mr. Chairman, Jane Mago will present this item for us.
Good morning.
Morning.
The proceeding which produced the item before you today began last November when the Commission adopted a notice of inquiry seeking public comment on the possible deregulation of receive-only earth stations. There was a very large response to our request. The commentators took many positions, but the majority favored some form of deregulation. As a result, the staff proposes the following deregulatory action. First, adoption of a policy of voluntary or optional licensing, giving the station operator a choice of whether or not to seek the protection from interference which licensing provides. Parties raised two objections to this proposal. First, the terrestrial operators fear that unlicensed receive-only operators will attempt to deny terrestrial applications where they see that these applications may cause interference. We considered this argument and concluded that although the objections may be raised, we would state that they will not be considered since we are placing these operators on notice that they are taking a chance, that they are operating at their own risk, and they will not be allowed to present objections to the terrestrial application. In Section 605 of the Act, which prohibits the interception and use of signals, the parties here argued that mandatory licensing should be maintained as a means of enforcing Section 605. We considered the argument here, but concluded that licensing is not required to enforce 605, that the adoption of a voluntary licensing program removes only one weapon from the arsenal of tools for enforcement purposes, and that is the option to revoke the operator's license. Other remedies, including civil lawsuits, criminal lawsuits, copyright proceedings, possibility of issuance of forfeitures or cease and desist orders, still exist. Therefore, we concluded that mandatory licensing was not necessary for this purpose.
What about pirating? This make it easier for that to happen?
That's the 605 issue, Commissioner, that I discussed slightly in the presentation, and that is there may be a greater proliferation of earth stations here. However, the only option that we have, the only enforcement tool that we've taken away here is the option to revoke the license. Any other enforcement mechanisms against piracy will still exist.
I suppose encoding and encrypting is the only real answer to it.
That certainly is an option that's available to the program supplier, yes.
Commissioner, I'd like to agree with that statement very, very heartily, that in the final analysis, though the economics may not be too favorable right at the moment, I think encoding and encryption probably has got to be the answer from the standpoint of program suppliers if they wish to have any genuine degree of security about the theft of their service. Now, at the margins, there may be other things that could and should be done, but I think that really is the final solution and perhaps the only solution that will prove to be altogether adequate.
Well, since I was in one of the ones early on in urging that we go down from our limitation of 9 meters to 4.5 meters, I've got to be for this one. I think it's the next logical step in the chain, and it's a good item, and I support it. I suppose this means that the individual user can have a smaller, he can go to any size that he thinks will suit his requirements.
Yes, that's right, Commissioner.
That's implicit here, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
The question then is on the adoption of the report and order proposing the immediate implementation of voluntary licensing for receive-only facilities and completely deregulating unlicensed facilities. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bob Maniaci, president of Bowman Industries, Downey, California. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you to the TVRO Industries 5th anniversary birthday party.
And my name is Bob Cooper, and I want to put you on notice that anything you say here this evening possibly could be used against you. If you cannot afford an attorney, we'll probably find one in the audience who will help you out for a fee.
Robert, that's fair enough. Tonight, the home and semi-commercial TVRO industry takes a good, hard look at itself. It's a sort of self-analysis. We are here to analyze who we are and where we've come from, and to honor those individuals that have helped us get to where we are today.
This might appropriately be called the roots of TVRO, and if we could have afforded Alex Haley, I assure you that he'd be standing here and Robert and I would be in the audience. We're here to help you trace the adventures of our past, so perhaps we'll do a little better job of figuring out where we're going in the next 5 years.
We promise that you will neither hear nor see any commercial messages here this evening. The only exception is a short piece of videotape where one of our awardees slips into a commercial for the Watkins Johnson Corporation. I wonder how many people here tonight who know who the Watkins Johnson Corporation is.
Didn't they make Band-Aids or mouth antiseptic, Robert?
Not quite, Robert. 4 short years ago, Watkins Johnson was one of the vendors of a component part that today cost more than the new Bowman stereo satellite television receiver available at booth number blah, blah, blah.
You came close to being clipped. I want you to know that.
Clipped.
Yes. Bob, let me explain briefly how tonight's program works. There are 8 separate awards, and until you kind people came here this evening, you could not be exactly sure, we hope, of the identity of the 8 who we will honor here this evening. You would have known about Robert Coleman, and Robert Taggart, and Richard Brown, and Arthur C. Clarke.
But you wouldn't have known about the remaining 4. Neither Bob nor I have the skills of Johnny Carson or Joan Rivers. Therefore, we've turned to some of our industry leaders to help us introduce the awardees this evening.
Each of the 8 awards will be awarded by a separate host. Each host will tell you a little bit about the award winner, and then the lights will dim down or up depending upon their ability to read our cues. And the large projection screen off here to my left and straight in front of you will light up with some early video of this particular awardee doing what it was he did that makes him such a distinguished contributor to our industry.
Then the winner, if present, will come forward and join us here in the winner's area. After the ceremony, I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to take a moment and come forward and congratulate these recipients.
There's the matter of the cake and the ice cream. You'll notice that it has not been served yet. In spite of our best intentions and plans, it turns out there is a little-known law. Did you know this, Mr. Mariachi? A little-known law on the books of Nashville, Tennessee, pertaining to serving cake and ice cream on Labor Day?
Robert, would you believe that old-time law makes it totally illegal to sell or serve cake and ice cream on a national holiday?
Well, if you believe that one, folks, we have a story about a 6-inch dish that ADM has just come out with, and it replaces all larger antennas.
No commercial announcement.
That was not a commercial announcement.
And so on. Here we are. It's time to introduce our first award host. This is a unique man. I think we all know him. He's a mutual friend of all of us. He's an extremely shy individual. I've had the pleasure of knowing him for several years. And he's a unique fella because if you give him an inch, he measures it. Further to that, he truly believes if you hold a remote control in your hand, you control the world. May I take great pleasure?
Allow me to take great pleasure.
Okay.
Allow me to take great pleasure in announcing and asking you to welcome Mr. David McClaskey of East St. Louis, Illinois, from the INTERSAT Corporation.
Isn't this a great industry to be in? Can't hear you. Come on. Get it going. You know, we were going to have a parade today for all the manufacturers who never missed a ship date. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the parade because one guy got sick and the other guy wouldn't walk by himself. Then Coop and I got together and decided it'd be really nice to honor the distributors in this industry that are fully trained on the equipment they sell. So we rented the Grand Ole Opry. Turns out we could have used the men's john down the hall. We would have still had 3 empty seats. Bad stuff. But seriously, folks, it's an honor for me tonight to present the first award. Our first award goes to a man who, perhaps more than any other contributor tonight, personifies the early days of TVRO. Here was a man of average means and no formal education with microwave or background who refused to take no for an answer. He took the microwave out of the lab and put it on the workbench. May we share some of this man's moments of excitement and accomplishments in TVRO, please.
About $1 worth right there.
Yeah.
And
Okay, then
stainless steel rod
that your feed is mounted on.
Right.
This allows you to slide the feed in and out, okay?
That's right. You can get your focal point, and you can also change the polarity just by turning it, you know.
There isn't a whole lot to that, is it?
No. Okay, this is a mixer. This 4 gigahertz. It puts out on 70.
Sure.
Okay, this goes to the signal generator I'm using for a local oscillator.
Okay, now this is another piece of, quote, surplus equipment, unquote.
Yeah, this, I bought this at a Ham Fest for $15.
Well, I'd say you got a bargain.
Yeah, it works very good for what I'm using it for.
Now, back up here to the secret of the way your system works, which is, to the best of my knowledge, the first amateur designed and constructed HFET or gas fed amplifier.
Okay, this is the first HFET right here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it looks like a little X right here.
Yeah.
Okay, the bias comes in this one for the transistor, and what you might say the B plus comes in this one.
Right.
That's an old term for it. But, the positive voltage comes in this one.
See.
Okay, while you're right there, let's talk
Okay.
about that a second.
Okay, what is that?
That tweaks the monopole, and I found that was one of the secrets to making it work properly. The reason this wire here is on here, it doesn't do anything but takes the strain off of the board because it's a little fiberglass board.
Duroid board. We
Duroid,
should point
yeah.
that out. This is not a piece of G10.
That's right. It's fiberglass, and it's a special board for microwave service.
That you ran it without an LNA at all.
Yeah, when I first started, Bob, I used a mixer like this, and I never found it, though. I was feeding the TD2 mixer directly into a TV set at 70 megacycle. Yeah, I had no sound, but occasionally I could get a picture to synchronize. Yeah, I had this dish here pointed towards West Star, the little dish over here.
Right.
And I was picking up West Star, just faintly, you know. And I had a bunch of trees over here that were in the way. I kept trying to shoot through the trees and never could have any luck. So I had a friend of mine come over one day and cut those trees down. The same afternoon I was picking up SATCOM.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome Mr. Robert Coleman from Travelers West, South Carolina. Come forward, please, Bob.
I love that. That was very nice.
Turn around, show that to everybody. Turn around, show it to everybody. Thank you very much.
You gonna say it to us?
Well, I don't really know what to say, but you can see where we started, and you can see where we are now. Thank you very much.